I recently got back from a Whirlwind tour to Dublin, Ireland, as I learned about sports and health tech coming from this country. Oh, and yeah, I got to see Pittsburgh beat up Minnesota. For a Packer fan, that's usually a great bonus, although we did tie Dallas that night, but it's a tie, right? What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek. Now, this trip was paid for by my new friends over at Enterprise Ireland, but they are not reviewing this video before publish. You can check out my policies on reviews and trips over at geekazine.com/review. If you've got a product to review, or if you have a country for me to visit and check out the technology there, contact me on that page. Now, before we get to the game, let's kind of rewind to the beginning of the week. Like I already mentioned, I was brought to Dublin by Enterprise Ireland. It's an organization that focuses on Irish-based businesses. With 42 locations around the world and a new location in the United States, their focus was to showcase the companies that originate from there. Now, currently, Enterprise Ireland is working with over 4,000 companies, along with many founders and investors. With 5.5 million people in Ireland, they want to make sure that this is companies that are seen around the world. Ireland is the second largest tech area in Europe and exports to 160 countries around the world. At the moment, they have incubators with about 30 companies that are working on building a name. And we're only going to see about 5 of them. Now, in the group's intro, we were told that for years, Ireland has been what they called an outward-facing country, which meant that they brought companies in to try and boost their economy. Now, the focus is on bringing people from Ireland out to the rest of the world. And it didn't matter if they were startups or established businesses. They wanted to show the rest of the world what Ireland can really do. And yeah, we only got to see a small taste of what came out of Ireland, but it was still a pretty good morsel. But let's take a small step back here and start at the beginning. I arrived on September 25th, a Thursday, and when all the excitement for the game was really starting to show around town. Just in the airport alone, they had banners and balloons and streamers and other promotional material to really hype up the game. Of course, the flights were crazy booked, with Pittsburgh and Minnesota fans getting ready for the trip. I got to talk to a few of them during the flight. Most of the ones I talked to had never flown out of the country before, but there they were, sporting their favorite team logos, their favorite attire, and even attire from teams that were not playing. Like myself, I did have to have a Packer jersey on after all. No, there weren't any terrible towels spinning on the plane or Viking horns in the seats, but if I would have asked, I bet you somebody would have pulled them out. The flight from Detroit to Dublin was about 7.5 hours. Usually, a flight over to the UK happens overnight, which means that I get on a plane about 8, 9 o'clock at night and get over there about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. That's when some jet lag can really set in, as opposed to flying back, which usually happens in the morning, which means I arrive in the United States in the morning with a couple-hour difference, depending on which airport I end up in. Once I got into the airport, I made my way to the taxi line. I got to drive through town rather than taking their tunnel system, just to get a good idea of what I was going to expect for the next few days. And I was not disappointed in the look and feel of Dublin. We were supposed to stay at the Gibson Hotel, but got switched last minute to the Clayton Hotel in Ballsbridge. It's an amazing hotel that was once a Masonic girls' school. On the first day, I took a walk around as I headed towards the Aviva Stadium. This is where you would connect up with the train system if you wanted faster transit around Dublin, or around Ireland for that matter. I would be back there on Saturday for the rugby game. I definitely saw the rustic look of the old Irish town, complete with pubs and establishments and pubs and more pubs and lots of pubs and Guinness. Lots of Guinness too. So you know, the reason why I'm doing post-conversation from the studio as opposed to man on the street was because I had a small foot issue. Man, it made it really hard to get around. So it would have been a lot of hotel shots anyway. But I'm doing my best to give you a good look and feel of Ireland as we go. It was a small group of us that Enterprise Ireland had brought over. Most of us from the US and one person from Scotland. Each of us had our own unique niche, from sports tech to medical tech to even myself, who covers more consumer tech. But the best part about it is we got to lay fresh eyes in what was going on in Ireland. And to see the cool tech coming from Ireland makes me want to see a lot more, especially in consumer and other areas of technology. On the first day, we went to the Nova University College, which is, of course, in Dublin, to talk to some of the sports technology companies. The first company that we saw was called Sports Impact Technologies. Their focus was simply to measure real-time head impact detection so they can determine whether a player is concussed. The device is actually amazingly small. It's the size of a dime, and it fits behind the player's ear. The sensor collects information with two parts. The first one is real-time data that you could view upon a mobile device, and the second part, which was downloaded after the match to get a better idea of everything that was happening to that player. And each player would sport one, and so tons of data from that game could be collected. Now, that company has gotten some great data out of it and has learned a lot about different contact sports, from football to American football to rugby to hurling, I'll talk about later, and other great contact sports. It was amazing to see such a small piece of tech do a lot for a player. And as Ian said, most players don't even remember that they're wearing that device. But the long-term stats will give them a better way to understand impact and be able to set up treatments so they can overcome any type of concussion and get back out on the field. The next company we saw was called Output. They have a wearable sensor that can help performance data to enhance training programs, assess injury risk, and identify emerging talent. The device can be put onto the body, either held in the hand or put on a body part like a foot or anything like that, to measure movement and more. They showed two examples. The first one where they were showing jump performance of a player, and the second one was simply tracking movements in a specific exercise. The one they did in the example was squats. All the data is in real time and can be monitored via mobile device, but then can go to the computer for a more detailed analysis. After a small break, we came back in to talk with a company called DANU, which they made a sock that housed a wearable. This device monitored performance and health throughout the feet. I did get a chance to talk to the founder of DANU, Oysen Lennon. Here is some of that video.
At DANU, what we're doing is creating the freedom of analysis to measure real-world movement in any environment at any time. That's covered across DANU Sports and DANU Medical, where we work across both different areas. From the DANU Sports perspective, it's about measuring, helping athletes recover from injuries and prevent those injuries from happening in the first place, and we help increase performance across any sort of sport on the field of play. On the DANU Medical side, then, it's all about helping improve patient outcomes across various different clinical applications, from orthopedics through to neurological diseases or people suffering from plantar fasciitis. And the whole idea is to help improve those patient outcomes, both from the hospital or the clinic, but also more importantly in a remote patient care perspective as well. And then we do some work on the, pharmaceutical side to help accelerate drug development as well across those different clinical applications. Creating that freedom by turning your everyday sock into a very powerful analytical tool that measures over 14,000 data points a second, how you're moving and the quality of that movement. So essentially what you have is a pair of socks. There are 15 pressure sensors built into the sole of the foot. So if you can imagine 3 rows of data, five columns of data encompassing the full surface area of the sole of your foot. Also working with inertial sensors here. So this measures your plantar pressure, essentially how your foot's interacting with the ground and footwear.
Let's take a look at that.
And then this unit measures how your foot is moving through space and time.
We'll point that, the sensor right there.
Yeah, that works in isolation outside of the sock as well. So this is a pretty powerful little, what we call IMU unit in isolation. We've got straps where you can apply this to different parts of your body, such as a lumbar.
So yes, but you could get a compression sleeve and put it on there.
Exactly.
Or anything like that.
Yeah. And eventually we'll have a strap where you can, magnetically attach it to a barbell and get velocity-based training. So trying to cover pretty much every sort of element of movement analysis. When you combine this with the socks across the body, you'll be able to, not now, but eventually sort of get that kinetic data from the sole of the feet and then get that full sort of motion capture of how the body's moving. But at the moment, it's a pair of socks. The sensors in the sole of the feet are uniquely flexible in-shoe pressure measurement system. It's incredibly robust, fully machine washable, which is pretty important when you're selling a pair of socks to individuals.
Sensor, right? Yeah.
You
got to take that sensor out.
So this itself is fully
I probably would leave the sensor in accidentally,
It's water preventative or whatever the term is. But it's very durable. They've gone through a few hundred kilometers of high-speed running. There's no impact on the sensors or the quality of the products.
How about the bottom of the feet? Because this is it's very flexible, as you said, but there's still a surface there. I suppose it feels like possibly an insole or anything like that. Have players or anybody mentioned that when you were trying?
Yeah, so it's a key thing. So it's not just like a normal pair of socks, and it never will be. But it is actually incredibly comfortable when you're wearing them in general play, whatever that sort of practice might be. So we've had them used for track and field, people wearing super spikes, which are incredibly tight and ultra light. Soccer players wearing them who generally wear sort of 2 foot sizes down in their soccer cleats. Okay. So again, a really tight, horrible environment for any sort of technology. Yeah. And the same with rugby players or anyone. And we very rarely get any problems with people wearing them. We basically set it up so it measures to whatever environment the sensors are in. So it doesn't matter what footwear you're wearing, what type of feet you have, whether you're flat footed or you've got a high arch. Doesn't really matter. We just measure to that environment that the sensors are in.
Okay. And if you do have insoles, you can wear those.
Correct.
And then you wear your socks inside these socks?
You can either just wear them like a normal pair of socks, or you can have your normal socks on underneath, put them on top. And then you can put whatever footwear you want on, and you can have whatever orthotics or custom insoles you want underneath that. Okay. Effectively, one of the best things about it is that you can actually measure how effective those orthotics actually have, or how effective they actually are.
The last interview at the college was from a company called Head Diagnostics. They had an appliance called the Eye Tremor 1. This was like a gun, and it was set to the side of your eye, pointed right about here, to monitor movement. The jittering in the eye could tell a lot about neuro healthcare. The best part about this appliance is it can be easily used to get a reading from someone at a moment's notice. You could set that on the desk, and if you need to monitor, just pick it up and run it. We didn't try it out because it's still under FDA inspection, and of course, it does point lasers in your eye. After a small walk over to Fitzwilliam Hotel, we sat in on a media briefing which included the launch of Enterprise Ireland's Pitchbook, which is a report on Ireland's sports tech landscape and the presentations from tech companies that work with the NFL teams, including Kitman Labs, Output Sports, and Oreco. Finally, we walked over to a social mixer with other Irish journalists at a bar called Cahoon's Pub, which is a pub that's been around since 1803. It's a very small place, but they actually let everyone go out in the street. And while everybody was toasting their Guinnesses, we were all standing outside in the street just getting to know each other, and that was pretty cool for a first day. All right, let's talk for a minute here about AE Juice. I am now an affiliate of AE Juice, in where I'm taking this content and making my videos better, and you could do the same thing too, from LUTs to sound effects to transitions to even AI elements and a lot more. You can bring a whole ton of stuff in. You're seeing that as we're going. You can check that out over at geekazine.com/AE Juice for the free starter pack. Of course, there's many other packs over at AE Juice. You can check that out over there, but geekazine.com/AE Juice. Now let's get back into the content. On the second day, we got to learn about a company called WHYZE, WHYZE. This company is focused more on healthcare tech. The founder basically explained why she started the company, which involved an issue where her daughter had a horrible accident and the doctors told them her leg would never recover. But with her daughter's will and spirit, she changed all of that, and now she's running and completely mobile. WHYZE was created to connect patients with providers and researchers using AI to improve patient outcomes and research worldwide. And this is a very interesting challenge because of not only the HIPAA laws, but also since they're in the UK, they have to deal with GDPR and COPA as well. From there, it was all about sports, which we went to attend a rugby match. We saw the Lansdowne rugby team versus the Cork Constitution match. An amazing time watching semi-pro sports right next to the Aviva Stadium. Now, as a video geek, I was also watching how they were recording and streaming the game. It was really cool, and it was very basic for a camera shoot, but the way that they created their PTZ style effects on these cameras was just really, really amazing. And of course, I had my first Guinness of the weekend at that rugby match. I don't drink beer too much, and that's weird coming from somebody that comes from Wisconsin. I wanted to make sure that I did have some of the spirits that were there in Ireland, especially a Guinness beer. And I did drink one at the rugby game. I don't know if it tasted different from the United States. If you do know, let me know in the comments below. Now, some of us also got to experience a new sport, at least for me. It was called hurling. Not curling, but hurling. It has hints of different sports like lacrosse, baseball, soccer, hockey, and more. Now, the idea is to take a small ball about the size of a baseball and move it using sticks that they call hurls down to the other end of the pitch. They can then choose to go for 1 point, which basically involves getting the ball through the goalposts, like a regular set of football goalposts, or to get 3 points by squaring off against the goalie and get it into the net below. This game took me by surprise, and I loved it. It was fast-paced, it had a lot of amazing elements to it, and even though the scoring was separated between the 1 points and the 3 points, it was the total amount of points that really mattered. That evening, we got to go to another one of Dublin's oldest pubs called The Bridge, which was founded in 1859. Now, this bar has a lot of old town feel, along with current themes, and a lot of great food. In 2020, my dad passed away, and he never made it to Ireland, and he was Irish. My mom, who also just passed away in the last 48 hours, also never made it to Ireland. Therefore, I decided that it was a great place to toast my dad and let him know that I made it. What's even more cool about it is I toasted him with my namesake whiskey, Powers Whiskey. Yes, there is a Powers Whiskey. And they had 3 different flavors there, and I tried 2 of them because I recorded the first one and the recording didn't work. Then there was game day. We had the morning to do some exploration. I stayed close to the hotel to try and keep my strength. We drove out to Crook Park, where of course the game was being played, and of course it could fit the people, enough people for that game. They supplied us with media accreditation to the game, which was basically awesome. Being a noob in the area, I didn't bring as much camera gear as I should have, and so I didn't get too much of the game, but the shots that I did get of the game are just amazing. From the shots of the crowd, the terrible towels, and the street, and everything else. We went to pick up our passes, and I did pass by Joe Manganiello. You might know him through things like True Blood, but also through Magic Mike. He's a big D&D guy, and of course he is currently doing the Deal or No Deal Island, being the host of that series. That was pretty much the only celebrity I ran into. I heard about other celebrities like Bill Murray that were at the game at that point, but it wasn't about the celebrities, it was about seeing the game. And we got there just as the national anthem was playing, and we saw the field with the American flag and Ireland's flag side by side. Great renditions of each national anthem and a fun, quick fireworks show. Our seats were pretty high up, but we were close to the 50-yard line, which made viewing the game very easy. And if I really wanted to see the game up close, I could pull out my phone and I could zoom in on the action. We also had access to a couple other levels, so I could have went down and gotten some more closer field shots, but I was absolutely happy where I was. The game did not disappoint either. Of course, being a Packer fan, I always loved to see Aaron Rodgers throw some of his old magic. And as a Wisconsin Badger fan, I got to see TJ Watt and Keanu Benton do some of the magic on the field for Pittsburgh. There was one Badger on Minnesota's team, Joe Huber, and he got to play during the game, but only for a couple snaps. The stadium felt like just any other stadium with a long walk up to the 7th level. My foot did survive. The press area was easy to access, and of course, getting to our seats was very straightforward as well. We watched the game along with the halftime show, which was supplied by an artist named Miles Smith. They rushed the stage onto the field, and he played a couple songs and then moved it all off, and then we were back to the game in about 20-25 minutes. If you've never been to an NFL game, they also have some extra things happen. Like, since it was a Pittsburgh home field advantage, Pittsburgh Steelers drumline playing, the band from Ireland on the corner that supplied some music, a sing-along with the song that was chosen from a list by the crowd. And like I said, since this was a home game, a lot of Pittsburgh-related chants and music. And yeah, I won't sugarcoat this at all. I was really happy that Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers won that game. Although I do have to say that Minnesota did put up a very valiant fight to get back in and try and win it. But I got to witness firsthand a couple milestones. For example, the first touchdown that was scored in Dublin by the Steelers, along with Aaron Rodgers passing Drew Brees to become the NFL's all-time leader in completions of 50-plus yards, and his 91st career completion of 50 yards or more. Another geeky stat is that this Minnesota's first loss on international soil. And of course, the biggest stat of all, my first time in Dublin, Ireland. Now, as the game wound down, we got together and shared notes across the street from the field at a local hotel, had a great dinner and drinks back towards our hotel, and started packing for the early morning trip back. In all, this was my first trip to Ireland, and it did not disappoint. Even with my foot problems, I was able to get around town and do some of the things. Like I said, I wish I could have done a little bit more, but when I get back there, we're going to do a lot more. That's for sure. So, also during the week, I actually met a few people from Madison and got to talk to them as they were there. They were basically simply traveling Ireland through a tour company of some sort. And a couple were there to actually root on the game with Packer attire. And there was tons of attire, whether it be Pittsburgh or Minnesota or Green Bay, or there were a lot of Rodgers jerseys. I did see somebody with a cheese head. And of course, Buffalo Bills were there. I saw Miami. There were a lot of different jerseys. Some of these people lived in Dublin. Some of these people flew in for the game, because it is a historic game if you think about it. You could go see the Super Bowl. You get to pay a lot of money to go see the Super Bowl. But you could go to Dublin, Ireland and see the first game ever played in Dublin, Ireland. And I think that's just as special as going to the big game. As for the tech in Ireland, I only got to see that small piece of it. And some of it's actually being used in the NFL right now. I can't wait to see what other amazing tech comes from Ireland, and I'll most likely be seeing it at CES 2026. Enterprise Ireland will be at CES as well as South by Southwest, which I'm also planning to attend. I love the look and the feel of Dublin, and being of Irish heritage, I really want to go back and get more of that feel of the whole country. Not just because I want to drink more Guinness or Powers whiskey. I want to experience a little bit more. And some of the stories that I heard from the people doing the tours are just amazing. I do want to thank Enterprise Ireland for bringing me out there, and I'd like to thank the NFL for hosting a great game. I'd like to thank all the players of the rugby match and the hurling match that I saw for putting on great shows. I'd like to thank all the companies that I got to talk to and learn more about their technologies. And finally, I'd like to thank Casey for organizing this whole thing between me and Enterprise Ireland. So that's basically it. Got on a plane, 8 hours later, got back to the States, where I had to deal with a small delay in my second flight to get home. They were an hour late, and then when they got there, they had a flat tire. No, I'm not talking about the beer, an actual flat tire. So here we are. If you're interested in checking out any of the companies that I got to see while I was in Dublin, feel free to contact me, and I'll try to get you in touch with them for conversation. You can even comment down below if you're on YouTube. Keep in mind, each of these companies are startups, so they're also looking for funding. I can't wait to see this tech get implemented across many sports and see how these companies grow. But for now, that's it. My name is Jeffrey Powers. You can find me over at Geekazine.com or YouTube.com/Geekazine, where you can like, subscribe, comment, bell notification. Of course, that will tell you when the next video comes out. Until next time, thanks a lot for watching. You guys geek out, and let me know what startups you're finding most interesting and what sports you're finding to become a lifelong fan. Take care.